In the previous video, we learned what authorization is and how broken access control vulnerabilities occur when users gain access to resources they should not be allowed to access. But before continuing the Authorization Security for Developers series, we first need a short overview of what authentication is and how it differs from authorization. In this video, we will cover the basics of authentication, how users are identified, how their role is determined. We will also introduce JWT tokens and understand how they help securely identify users when they send requests to the server. As we know, authorization is the mechanism used to apply restrictions and assign permissions to different roles of users. But before we can set any restrictions or grant any permission to our users, how do we know who the user is and what is the role of the user interacting with our system? For example, how do we know whether the user sending the request is an admin, a student, or any other role assigned to them? For this, we first need to identify the user. Who is the user, and then extract its role from its identity. To determine this, the system must first verify the identity of the user. This process is called authentication. Once the user is authenticated, the system can identify the role and then apply the appropriate authorization rules. In short, authentication is the process of verifying user identity, and authorization is the process of applying rules and permissions to an already authenticated user. Authentication comes first, then authorization. Only after the user identity is confirmed using the authentication mechanism we can apply authorization. Otherwise, we cannot determine what permission should be given. But how do we verify the identity of a user? User identification means the user is already registered or part of our system. In other words, the user information already exists in our database. This information can include details such as name, email, password, role, and other profile data which are stored as a record in the database. But when is this information added to the database at first place? There are multiple ways user data can be added into the system. The most common method is when the user first interacts with the application and creates an account using sign-up form. During sign-up, the user provides information such as name, email, password, and this information is saved in the database. When a new user account is created, the system usually assigns a default role, such as normal user or a student. The role can be changed or promoted later by administrator. After user information is available in the database, the user can later access the system through login process using credentials such as username and password. This is where authentication comes in. During login, the user must prove their identity by providing the correct credentials that match the information stored in the database. If the provided details are correct, the system successfully authenticates the user and retrieves their file information including their assigned role. This role is then used to determine what actions the user is allowed to perform in the system. However, if the credentials are incorrect, authentication fails and the user is not allowed to access the system. After authentication, an important question arises. How does the server remember the user is already authenticated? Since HTTP is stateless, every API request is treated as a new request. This means the server does not automatically remember whether the user has already logged in or not. So how does the server identify that the incoming request belongs to an authenticated user, and how long the authenticated user can continue interacting with the system? To solve this problem, the server generates a token for user after successful authentication. One commonly used token format in modern applications is called JWT JSON Web Token. This token contains important information about the user, such as the user ID, user role, and token expiry time. JWT also includes a signature created using a secret server-side key, which helps ensure that the token cannot be modified. For now, we will not go into the technical details of how the signature works. Base64 encoding converts JSON data into a short and compact string, making the token smaller and efficient to send with every request. After the user logs in successfully, the token is sent to the client and stored in the browser local storage or cookies. So whenever the user makes an API request to the system backend, the client sends this token along with the request. The server then verifies the token on every request to confirm that it belongs to a valid authenticated user. For example, whenever the user wants to view their profile, access their courses, or enroll in any course or any other action in the application, the token must be verified first. Only after the token is successfully validated does the system allow the user to perform requested action. Once the token is verified, the server extracts the user information from it, such as user role. Based on this role, the system applies the appropriate authorization rule to control what action the user is allowed to perform. The token is typically stored in client side. This allows the user to remain logged in the system without needing to enter their credentials again using login system. This is why in many popular services like Google, Instagram, you do not have to log in repeatedly. Once authenticated, the token helps the system recognize the user in the future. To understand how authorization works in real application, I have created a practice-based backend system that intentionally contains multiple broken access control vulnerabilities. Throughout this series, we will gradually fix these vulnerabilities step by step by learning secure authorization concepts in a practical way. I have provided the full GitHub repository link for this project in the description. You can run this backend server locally on your machine or use Postman to send API requests. You will also see how JWT token are used to identify the user before every request and how the server returns different responses depending on the user role and permission. If you face any difficulty while setting up this project, feel free to contact me. I will try to help. If you want to learn secure backend development and understand authorization vulnerabilities in depth, subscribe to this channel to stay updated with the upcoming videos.